The 2009 Star Trek reboot begins with a dramatic confrontation in space. The USS Kelvin, a Federation starship, encounters a mysterious and enormous vessel emerging from a lightning storm anomaly. The hostile ship, commanded by Romulan Captain Nero, destroys the Kelvin after demanding the presence of its captain Robow aboard. Robow is killed, leaving First Officer George Kirk in command. While evacuating the crew, including his pregnant wife, George sacrifices himself by ramming the Kelvin into Nero's ship, saving hundreds of lives as his son is born. The newborn is named James Tiberius Kirk. Years later, young Jim Kirk grows up rebellious and aimless in Iowa, constantly getting into trouble. After a bar fight with Starfleet cadets, Captain Christopher Pike encourages Jim to join Starfleet, appealing to his father's heroic legacy. Intrigued by the challenge, Kirk enlists, and on the shuttle ride to the Academy he meets Leonard Bones McCoy, a cynical yet brilliant doctor who becomes his close friend. Meanwhile, on the planet Vulcan, a young Spock struggles with his mixed human-Vulcan heritage. Despite prejudice from Vulcan elders, he excels academically but ultimately rejects admission to the Vulcan Science Academy after they insult his human mother. Instead, Spock chooses to join Starfleet, seeking a balance between emotion and logic. 3 years later, Starfleet receives a distress signal from Vulcan. Another lightning storm anomaly like the one that destroyed the Kelvin has appeared. As cadets are mobilized for emergency deployment, Kirk, under disciplinary review for cheating the Kobayashi Maru test, a no-win simulation he reprogrammed, sneaks aboard the USS Enterprise with McCoy's help. The Enterprise is commanded by Captain Pike with Spock as first officer. When they arrive, Vulcan is under attack by Nero, who has returned from the future seeking revenge. Nero blames Ambassador Spock, from the future, for the destruction of Romulus, his home planet. Nero uses a drill to bore into Vulcan's core and deploys red matter, creating a black hole that destroys Vulcan entirely. Spock rescues some of the Vulcan elders, including his father, but his mother perishes. With Pike captured by Nero, Spock becomes acting captain. Kirk, suspicious of Spock's emotional control and decisions, is ejected from the ship to a nearby icy planet. There he meets the future version of Spock, Spock Prime, who explains that Nero and he were accidentally transported into the past through a black hole created while trying to save Romulus. Spock Prime guides Kirk to a nearby Starfleet outpost where they meet Montgomery Scotty Scott, an engineering genius. Using Spock Prime's advanced knowledge, Kirk and Scotty beam aboard the Enterprise at warp speed. Kirk confronts Spock, forcing him to reveal his emotional instability, and gains command of the ship. The Enterprise rushes to Earth, Nero's next target. Kirk and Spock beam aboard Nero's vessel to rescue Pike and stop the red matter. They succeed in destroying Nero's ship by igniting the red matter, causing it to collapse into a black hole, which the Enterprise narrowly escapes. In the aftermath, Kirk is promoted to captain of the Enterprise. Spock Prime encourages his younger self to embrace friendship with Kirk, and the two begin forging the iconic partnership that will define their careers. Spock decides to stay in Starfleet rather than help rebuild Vulcan, wanting to serve beside Kirk. A crisis aboard the USS Kelvin, a Federation starship. A massive vessel commanded by Romulan Captain Nero emerges from a lightning storm in space and attacks. Captain Robow is killed after boarding the Romulan ship, leaving First Officer George Kirk in command. Kirk sacrifices himself to save his crew, including his wife, who gives birth to their son during the escape, James Tiberius Kirk. Years later, Jim Kirk grows into a reckless, rebellious young man in Iowa. After a bar fight with Starfleet cadets, Captain Christopher Pike encourages him to join Starfleet, believing Jim can live up to his father's legacy. Kirk accepts the challenge and enlists, meeting the cynical yet brilliant Dr. Leonard Bones McCoy on the shuttle ride to the Academy. Meanwhile, on Vulcan, a young Spock struggles with his mixed human-Vulcan identity and prejudice from Vulcan elders. He excels academically but rejects an offer from the Vulcan Science Academy due to their disdain for his human mother, choosing instead to join Starfleet. At Starfleet Academy, Kirk takes the infamous Kobayashi Maru test, a no-win scenario simulation created by Spock. Kirk beats it by secretly reprogramming the test, triggering a disciplinary hearing. He argues that the test is unfair and that he doesn't believe in no-win scenarios. The tribunal is interrupted by a distress call from Vulcan, which is experiencing seismic disturbances. With the main fleet away, cadets are assigned to active ships. Kirk, under suspension, sneaks aboard the USS Enterprise thanks to McCoy, who fakes a medical emergency to bring him along. The Enterprise, led by Captain Pike, departs for Vulcan. On board are Spock, First Officer, McCoy, Chief Medical Officer, Sulu, Helmsman, Chekhov, Navigator, Uhura, Communications Officer, and Scotty, who joins later. Kirk, though ill from the fake medical condition, learns from Uhura that a Klingon prison planet reported a Romulan attack matching the pattern of Nero's earlier strike. He deduces that Vulcan's distress is a trap and rushes to the bridge to warn Captain Pike. His suspicion is confirmed when they arrive to find Nero's massive ship drilling into Vulcan's core. Pike boards Nero's ship to negotiate, leaving Spock in command and Kirk as first officer. Spock attempts to stop the drill, but it completes its task and drops red matter into Vulcan's core, creating a black hole. Despite efforts to save them, most of the Vulcan population, including Spock's mother, is lost. Nero, having destroyed Romulus in the future, blames Spock and seeks vengeance by destroying the Federation. Spock and Kirk clash over how to respond. When Spock ejects Kirk for insubordination, Kirk lands on a frozen planet where he encounters Spock Prime, the future version of Spock. Spock Prime reveals the time travel plot. Nero and he were caught in a black hole while trying to save Romulus and emerged decades earlier. Spock Prime encourages Kirk to take command and sets him on a path to fulfill his destiny. Kirk meets Scotty at a nearby station and uses Spock Prime's knowledge to beam aboard the Enterprise at warp. He provokes young Spock into relinquishing command due to emotional instability, taking over as captain. Together Kirk and Spock lead a daring mission to stop Nero from destroying Earth next. They board Nero's ship, rescue Pike, and destroy the Romulan vessel using red matter. Kirk is officially promoted to captain of the Enterprise and Spock requests to remain as first officer. The film ends with the iconic crew Kirk, Spock, McCoy, Uhura, Sulu, Chekhov, and Scotty embarking on their first official mission together, boldly venturing into the unknown. The 2009 Star Trek reboot reimagines the origin of the legendary crew while creating an alternate timeline, allowing fresh stories to unfold without erasing the beloved canon of the original series. After joining the crew of the USS Enterprise under unusual circumstances, James T. Kirk urgently warns Captain Pike and the crew that Vulcan is not experiencing a natural disaster, it is under attack by Romulans. Although initially dismissed, Kirk cites the same lightning storm in space that appeared the day he was born, the day the USS Kelvin was attacked by a mysterious Romulan ship. Uhura corroborates Kirk's theory, having intercepted and translated a distress call confirming Romulan involvement. With Spock's support and Uhura's linguistic skill, the crew scans Vulcan space but finds no transmissions. Moments later they drop out of warp and discover a devastating scene, other Federation ships destroyed and a massive Romulan vessel, the Narada, orbiting Vulcan, deploying a drill into the planet's surface. A fierce battle ensues. The Enterprise is damaged, unable to communicate or transport crew to and from the surface due to interference from the drill. Captain Pike hails the Romulan ship and speaks with its commander Nero. Nero identifies himself and demands Pike board the Narada via shuttlecraft. Pike complies, taking Kirk and Sulu with him on a secondary mission to disable the drill. Spock is left in command of the Enterprise. Kirk, Sulu, and engineer Olsen space jump from the shuttle onto the drill platform. Olsen is killed during the descent, leaving Kirk and Sulu to sabotage the drill using brute force. With the drill disabled, communications and transporter functions are restored. However, Nero's mission continues. He launches a device containing red matter into the planet's core. Spock deduces that Nero is creating an artificial black hole to destroy Vulcan entirely. Though Kirk and Sulu are beamed back just in time, the black hole begins to consume the planet. Spock rushes to the surface to rescue members of the Vulcan High Council, including his parents. In a tragic twist, he manages to save his father but loses his mother Amanda during the evacuation. The destruction of Vulcan, home to billions, sends shockwaves through Starfleet and emotionally rattles Spock. He confesses to Kirk that his actions must remain logical, but his grief is overwhelming. Meanwhile, Nero tortures Pike aboard the Narada, demanding codes to disable Earth's defenses. His plan: to destroy Earth next, just as he did Vulcan to avenge the Romulan homeworld lost in the future. Kirk, back on the Enterprise, is increasingly convinced they must stop Nero at all costs. Spock, clinging to protocol and emotionless logic, resists Kirk's impulsive ideas. Tensions escalate until Kirk goads Spock into an emotional outburst, proving he's compromised. With Spock relieved of duty, Kirk takes command. Kirk and young Spock, aided by information from Spock Prime, an older version of Spock from the future, plan a counterattack. They beam aboard the Narada, rescue Captain Pike, and destroy the red matter core, using it to consume Nero's ship in a black hole of its own making. Spock and Spock Prime reconcile, acknowledging their differences. The timeline has irrevocably changed, but the future remains full of possibility. In the aftermath, Pike promotes Kirk to captain of the USS Enterprise. Spock, voluntarily serving as first officer, begins forging his partnership with Kirk. Together with their crew Uhura, Sulu, Chekhov, McCoy, and Scotty, they set off into deep space, united in their mission to boldly go where no one has gone before. This reboot of Star Trek reintroduces iconic characters through a parallel timeline, blending action, emotion, and legacy to craft a new beginning for the franchise. If you enjoy watching this video, then subscribe to Angel Recaps for the latest movies explanation.